Look at this chart. In the last few years, the top 1% captured nearly twice as much new wealth as the rest of the world combined. We are talking about roughly $26 trillion. Meanwhile, if you are making an average salary today, it will take you over 12 years of strict, agonizing saving just to afford a down payment on a basic, average home. Not to buy it, just for the down payment. If you turn on the news, mainstream media and billionaires are running aggressive campaigns trying to convince you that this is your fault. They are throwing millions of dollars into articles claiming that Gen Z is just lazy, that you are entitled, that you simply refuse to work. But that is a massive lie. Gen Z isn't lazy, they are just the first generation to do the math and realize that the game is rigged. And the people at the top, they are absolutely terrified of what happens next. Imagine walking into a casino. You sit down at the table, you put your money down, and you play by the rules. At first, it seems fair, but every time you win a hand, the dealer changes the rules. They lower the payout, they increase the buy-in. Eventually, you realize that no matter how perfectly you play your cards, you are mathematically guaranteed to lose your shirt. That casino is the modern corporate workplace. For decades, the system sold us a very specific rulebook. Go to school, get a degree, put your head down, work 50 or 60 hours a week, and be absolutely loyal to your company. In exchange, the company will take care of you. You will get the white picket fence, the nice car, 2 kids, and a comfortable retirement. It was a social contract, a promise. But at some point over the last 20 years, the people running the casino quietly shredded that contract. They kept their end of the profits, but they stopped paying out the winnings, and they expected nobody to notice. Our parents' generation, the boomers, and even older millennials, they played by the old rules, and they got completely destroyed. They bought into the hustle culture. They believed that if they just worked a little harder, stayed at the office a little later, and answered emails on a Sunday morning, they would be rewarded. What did they actually get? The 2008 financial crash, the 2020 layoffs. They got crushed by student debt, suffocated by inflation, and rewarded for their hard work with more hard work. They sacrificed their mental health, missed their kids growing up, and gave their absolute best years to corporations that fired them over a 5-minute Zoom call the second profits dipped by 1%. Gen Z grew up watching this happen. You watched your parents give everything to a system that gave them nothing back. You watched older siblings graduate with master's degrees only to serve coffee because entry-level jobs suddenly required 5 years of experience. The trauma of the older generations was the ultimate wake-up call. You didn't become lazy, you just refused to be the next sacrificial lamb. If you think this is just an emotional overreaction, let me show you the cold, hard math. Because billionaires hate it when you look at the math. Look at the year 1971. Before 1971, worker productivity and worker compensation grew together. As workers made more money for the company paid the workers more. It was fair. But after 1971, those lines completely split. Worker productivity skyrocketed by over 60%. We got computers, the internet, software, AI. We are producing more wealth today than at any point in human history. But worker pay, it practically flatlined. Factoring in inflation, wages have barely moved in 50 years. And while your pay stayed flat, CEO compensation skyrocketed by over 1,400%. Let that sink in. You are doing the work of 3 people thanks to modern technology, but you're being paid a fraction of what your grandfather made, while the guy at the top is buying his 3rd mega yacht. The math proves that the current system does not pay you for the value you bring, it pays you the absolute minimum amount required to keep you from quitting. This mathematical reality caused a massive psychological shift, and this is exactly what triggered the billionaire panic. Gen Z introduced a concept that absolutely shattered corporate psychology. For decades, employers used a very specific, toxic psychological manipulation. They called the company a family. They threw pizza parties instead of giving raises. They made you feel guilty for leaving exactly at 5 p.m., implying that you weren't a team player. They weaponized your empathy and your desire to succeed to extract free, unpaid labor out of you. Gen Z looked at this and said, "No, we are not a family. This is a transaction. If I am paid for 8 hours, you get exactly 8 hours of my absolute best work, not 8 hours and 15 minutes, not weekend emails, not picking up the slack for the manager who doesn't know how to do his job. You pay me for a service, I provide the service. Transaction complete." It's not quiet quitting, it's doing exactly what is written in the contract, and the fact that doing your job is now labeled as quitting shows you how completely delusional the system has become. But for a growing part of Gen Z, even setting boundaries isn't enough. They aren't just doing the bare minimum, they are completely opting out of the system. When you realize that working 40 hours a week still leaves you broke, living paycheck to paycheck, and unable to ever own a home, a very logical, dark question arises. Why am I destroying my mental health for a system that mathematically guarantees I will stay poor? So, they just stop playing, they take part-time jobs, move back in with their parents, and completely abandon the corporate rat race. They are choosing peace, free time, and their mental health over a broken promise. And to a billionaire who relies on an endless supply of desperate workers, a generation that is no longer afraid of being unemployed is their absolute worst nightmare. Let's look at how this plays out in reality. Meet employee A and employee B. Both are hired for the exact same job, with the exact same salary. Employee A wants to climb the corporate ladder. He comes in early. He stays late. He takes on the workload of a coworker who quit, saving the company $60,000 a year. He sacrifices his gym routine and his sleep. At the end of the year, his boss shakes his hand, tells him he's a rock star, and gives him a 2% raise, which doesn't even cover that year's inflation. 2 years later, the company gets bought out, and employee A is laid off to cut costs. He is left with nothing but burnout. Now, look at employee B. Employee B is Gen Z. He comes in at 9 a.m., he works efficiently, gets his core tasks done, and logs out exactly at 5 p.m. He doesn't volunteer for extra, unpaid projects. Instead, he takes all that leftover energy and puts it into himself. He goes to the gym, he learns a high-income skill online, he starts a side hustle. At the end of the year, he also gets the same 2% raise, but he isn't mad because he never expected the company to save him. When the layoffs come, employee B doesn't panic because he has built his own safety net outside the matrix. And this right here is the grand payoff. This is why the elites are sweating. You might ask, if billionaires are making record profits right now, why are they so terrified? Because they are looking at the future, and they know that the foundation of their endless wealth is starting to crack. The media wants you to believe they are mad because you are lazy, but that is just a cover story. They are actually terrified because Gen Z is destroying the two core things their empire relies on: desperation and free labor. First, a massive chunk of your generation simply opted out. You looked at the math, realized the game was rigged, and chose peace over the rat race. This terrifies them because it starves the system of the cheap, desperate workers they need to function. And second, those of you who did stay in the corporate world are threatening their future profit margins because you absolutely refuse to work for free. You refuse to do the job of 3 people for 1 salary. You refuse to answer emails on a Sunday morning. They are making record profits today because older generations are still playing by the old rules. But when they look at Gen Z, they realize their free ride is ending. Whether you walked away from the casino completely or stayed and forced them to play by the rules, you took away their power, you broke the illusion, and a system built on exploitation cannot survive a generation that is no longer afraid. So, what is your move? Anger is useless if you don't channel it into strategy. Stop seeking validation from a system designed to exploit you. Act your wage at your day job. Protect your energy like it is your most valuable asset, because it is. Take that conserved energy and invest it into yourself. Learn a skill that cannot be easily replaced by AI. Build a side income. Use your 9 to 5 to fund your 5 to 9. The goal isn't to stop working. The goal is to start working on things that actually benefit you, not the guy at the top. Because at the end of the day, the casino always wins. The only way to beat a rigged game is to stop sitting at their table.